You feel the loop, the same fight with different faces, the same money ceiling no matter the job, that hollow loneliness even in a crowded room. Like your life is running on a script you never wrote. This is not your fault. This is a physical reality, a pattern acting on you with brutal predictability. And once you see it for what it is, everything changes. That seeing was taught long ago, in texts the powers tried to erase. The answer appears in the Apocryphon of John and other suppressed Gnostic records, teachings the organized church pushed out of sight because they showed how the world's repeatable suffering was manufactured. Those books were hidden for a reason. If people remembered what they contained, the mechanisms that feed on your pain would lose their grip. That matters to you now, because what was hidden explains the thing that has haunted your life for years. The core truth is blunt. You're inside a built pattern run by beings who can't create life, but can predict your reactions. They don't need to control every moment. They only need you to react the same way, again and again, so they can harvest that energy. Jesus, in those lost teachings, didn't ask for your faith. He handed down an operative method. Name the pattern that repeats. Do one single action that is the exact opposite of your programmed response, and then speak your exit out loud. That three-step move is not mystical fluff. It's a tactical break in the code that governs your life. This is urgent because predictability is their power, and immediacy is yours. If you keep treating this like an idea to think about later, the loop keeps feeding. Now, the work begins. First, you must identify and name the precise pattern that has followed you through jobs, relationships, and lives. You did not arrive here by accident. Your presence is a response to a repeating pattern that has shaped many of your days and nights. Each stalled project, each relationship that loops back to the same place, reveals the matriz, a systematic arrangement that creates those loops. The first practical recognition is simple. Name the loop without shame. Notice how parasitic pressure tightens in your vessel, and how the vital breath shortens when the pattern reoccurs. That recognition starts the disentangling. When that recognition lands, a sense of disconnection becomes clear. Small alarms, repeated betrayals, and a hunger for a frequency shield that works. Other people share this sensing because the matriz operates across many vessels, creating a familiar disquiet. The practical step is to locate the monadic anchor, a point of inner cohesion where sovereignty is lodged. Begin by feeling the vital breath move through your vessel, allowing that steady pulse to be the anchor. Name one recurring interference and hold it there without fleeing. The matriz functions like an algorithm of habit. It senses points of weakness and routes energy through those cracks, producing parasitic pressure that masquerades as necessity. When interference arrives, it will take familiar shapes: blame, overextension, numbing behaviors in work or in intimacy, to keep the vessel occupied and prevent sovereignty. Your task is investigative. Map the trigger chain without judgment. Trace where attention leaks, then reroute it toward the monadic anchor. This rerouting is not passive. It requires deliberate frequency shielding and repeated commitment. A practical secret emerges when simple micro-practices become habitual. Pause 3 counts with the vital breath before every major decision or emotional surge, and feel how parasitic pressure loses its purchase. Name an interference aloud when it appears. That naming collapses its authority. Create 2 non-negotiable boundaries around time and attention that act as a frequency shield for your sovereignty, and treat them as technical protocols. Calibrate daily. A short check on the monadic anchor and on any energy leaks in your vessel keeps the matriz from regaining control. Expect resistance. The matriz escalates when patterns are threatened, intensifying parasitic pressure and producing sharper interference. Relapse is a predictive move, not a moral failure. Each time sovereignty is tested, respond with technical adjustments. Shorten exposures that drain attention, extend the duration of your frequency shield, and reinforce the monadic anchor with a single calibrating gesture. A vow, a physical marker, a change in routine. These small, repeatable actions rebuild integrity in the vessel and teach the matrice that old loops no longer yield energy. You are not alone. Others sense the same malfunction and can become allies without compromising sovereignty. Seek out one or two cohorts who respect technical protocols and exchange simple alignment practices. A shared timing for recalibration, a signal when interference spikes, a mutual agreement to respect each other's frequency shield. Collaboration is tactical. It multiplies the monadic anchor's stability and exposes collective leak points in the matrice. Keep agreements concise and enforceable, so cooperation strengthens rather than dilutes personal sovereignty in practical discipline. Move forward with urgency but without haste. Liberation from the matrices built in cumulative, precise acts, not grand gestures. Keep returning to the vital breath as the reference point, and reinforce the monadic anchor each morning and before interactions that once drained attention. Tighten the frequency shield whenever parasitic pressure swells and log small wins that prove sovereignty is recoverable. Over time, the pattern alters, the loops thin out, and the vessel begins to operate on a more coherent signal. Your waking is now a practical project. You live inside a system that looks ordinary, but is mapped and maintained by Archons, who shape perception and choice. Your days fold into patterns that feel inevitable, and fear tightens its hold when protection seems scarce. That tightening grips your vital breath and makes freedom appear distant. The secret to breaking this pattern is not romantic escape, but precise recognition of how those entities design repetition. Learn to see the patterns as constructs, not fate, and the first fracture in their hold will appear. The Archons operate like engineers of attention, introducing interference that reroutes your choices along pre-written tracks. They embed signals in cravings, obligations, and the stories you accept about yourself, turning your vessel into a predictable mechanism. Parasitic pressure arrives as recurring impulses that insist on the same moves. When you learn to track those impulses, naming them, timing them, noting the situations that activate them, you reclaim subtle power. This practice converts vague suffering into data the Pneuma can use to pry open a lock. Pneuma is the monadic anchor inside you, the unconditioned presence that perceives before habits form. When access to that anchor strengthens, your sense of sovereignty expands and those engineered loops lose force. Strengthening happens through disciplined cultivation of the vital breath, short rituals that orient attention to the center of perception, and deliberate withdrawal from automatic endorsements. Each small contraction of attention away from the interference and toward the pneuma raises a frequency shield. Over time, that shield becomes practical equipment, not belief. Begin by mapping recurring structures in your life, the relationships that always end the same way, the work patterns that feel hollow, the beliefs that resist change. Treat each as a node in a schematic that Archons exploit. When compulsions arise, register them in a short log: time, trigger, sensation, outcome, and ask who gains from that loop. This pragmatic inquiry reduces parasitic pressure because it interrupts reflexive motion. The process builds a visible architecture of the matrix, which then becomes subject to strategic alteration. Begin small experiments that contradict the expected outcome. These micro-decisions are surgical. Changing one routine, refusing a familiar commitment, or speaking a different truth alters the circuitry without grand drama. Each successful deviation strengthens your monadic anchor and thickens the frequency shield, making future interference less effective. Respect for sovereignty grows through repeatable practice. The key is measurable deviation. Keep outcomes modest and observable, so the system cannot reabsorb the change into a new predictable loop. Over time, these breaks accumulate and widen the openings. When pressure intensifies and fear spikes, adopt a protocol that protects the vessel rather than fights blindly. Drop into the vital breath. Breathe attention into the center where the pneuma registers, and slow the internal reactivity that parasites exploit. Tighten the frequency shield by simplifying input. Remove sensational stimuli, shorten obligations, and insist on clear boundaries with familiar triggers. If necessary, regroup with trusted vessels who act as mirrors, not reactors, so sovereignty can be rebuilt without feeding interference further. Accept that liberation is technical work and not an escape fantasy. It requires consistent mapping, repeated micro-deviations, and steady tending of the monadic anchor. The pneuma does not overthrow structures for you. It illuminates vectors where mechanical force can be applied. When parasitic pressure declines and sovereignty consolidates, choices widen and protective clarity becomes habitual. Keep the practice simple, measurable, and fiercely honest. Your life will change as the matrix recalibrates around fewer predictable inputs and more authentic presence, steadily. You carry 3 distinct presences inside you that determine how you meet danger, doubt, and the promise of escape. Matter, the body that holds senses and impulses. Psyche, the emotional and thinking pattern that interprets events. And pneuma, the small vital breath, the divine spark that can see beyond surface rules. When anxiety tightens or fear seeks shelter, each of these responds differently. Recognizing which part is driving your reaction is the first practical secret toward reclaiming sovereignty. You will learn simple steps to shift. Your matter is the vessel in which experience is registered, subject to interference and conditioned reflexes. It expects immediate safety and responds to perceived threat with rigid movement or numb withdrawal. Parasitic pressure rides the body when old patterns replay without awareness. This produces habitual guarding and a hunger for external protection. Practical work with the vessel begins with directed attention to posture, breath, and boundary. Simple calibrations that reduce interference and prepare the body to receive clearer signals from psyche and pneuma. Your psyche is the patterning of feelings and thoughts that gives meaning to events, often replaying familiar stories that amplify fear or seek quick fixes. It builds arguments to justify staying small or chasing safety, and it can confuse urgency with real danger. Start by learning to recognize those stories as circuits instead of truths. Name the feeling, map the thought, and allow a pause long enough to test its source. A simple frequency shield, an intentional limit on incoming impressions, lets the psyche settle, while a monadic anchor restores inner orientation. Pneuma is the smallest and most decisive of the 3, the vital breath that connects you to a perspective beyond habitual circuits. It recognizes the architecture of the system and questions rules that feel imposed. Its work is subtle, a quieting, an alignment that lets insight emerge without force. Cultivation requires regular contact through moments of directed attention toward truth signals, refusing to be moved by parasitic pressure. As pneuma strengthens, sovereignty returns. Choices become less reactive and more attuned to what truly changes the pattern of repeating cycles. These 3 elements operate together, sometimes in harmony, and often in tension. The vessel may demand safety, while psyche spins stories, and pneuma notices an opportunity to step free. When they conflict, interference grows, and parasitic pressure deepens the loop of repetition. The practical secret is intentional coordination. Adjust the vessel so it stops sending alarm signals. Steady the psyche with clear naming and limits, and allow pneuma to test choices. A disciplined rhythm of posture checks, breath alignment, and frequency shielding creates a field where true transformation becomes possible. When confronted by panic, doubt, or the pull toward familiar safety, run a quick triage. Ask which part is most active, then act accordingly. Calibrate the vessel by easing tension and recentering the breath so interference drops. Neutralize psyche's stories by calling them out and testing their evidence instead of obeying them. Invite pneuma into the moment with a focused inhale and a question that seeks clarity rather than comfort. Finish by re-establishing a frequency shield and monadic anchor. simple habits that compound into lasting sovereignty. This is not doctrine, but a usable architecture for change. The secret lies in knowing which element to address and how to coordinate them until the pattern dissolves. You will still feel interference. Repetitions may return, but each application of posture, naming, breath, frequency shielding, and anchoring tightens control over unwanted reflexes. Protecting your sovereignty becomes routine, not rare. When pneuma is tended alongside a refined vessel and an honest Psyche, cycles lose their grip, and the ability to choose becomes clear and durable across ordinary days. You have felt the repeated pull of fear and the quiet hunger for protection that never ends. Archons use trauma as an anchor, sewing patterns into your vessel so your vital breath becomes a resource they siphon. Those moments of panic, shame, and isolation are not random. They are calibrated points of interference, designed to loop your attention back into the matrix. Recognize that your pain is not weakness, but a monadic anchor that keeps a portion of your energy tethered and accessible. Pay attention to the triggers that consistently bring you down. They are the access points Archons exploit. Parasitic pressure takes advantage of repeated scenes to form predictable frequency patterns, and when your reactions match those patterns, your vessel becomes easier to tap. Begin mapping where old wounds originate: family echoes, abrupt losses, betrayals dressed as ordinary events. Each mapped wound reveals a weak spot, and, conversely, a place to set a frequency shield. Guard those moments. Reinforce the perimeter of your attention so extraction becomes difficult. You reclaim what has been taken by restoring sovereignty over small, repeatable acts. Anchor your vital breath deliberately where the wound lives. Breathe into the memory until the parasitic pressure loses its hold. Refuse automatic reactions. Interrupt the loop by pausing, naming the script, and choosing a different frequency. These are practical maneuvers. Reroute attention away from the old cue, strengthen new responses that do not feed the Archons, and slowly rewire the habitual circuit so the monadic anchor unthreads and your energy returns to full ownership. Repetition is not random. It is a designed corridor that feeds successive returns into the matrix. Each unresolved wound becomes a marker the Archons track across cycles, ensuring the same themes recur until the anchor is dismantled. Look for patterns that span relationships and roles, those echoes that feel like déjà vu but carry emotional charge. By tracking lineage of occurrence and noting which scenarios consistently draw your vital breath into contraction, you find the core imprint. Once exposed, the corridor loses coherence, and the loop begins to fray. The secret practical method is simple and consistent. Identify, contain, and reroute. Identify the core memory that serves as the monadic anchor. Contain it with a frequency shield so parasitic pressure cannot immediately re-enter. Then reroute the released energy back into your vessel. Use a deliberate ritual of reclaiming breath, placing attention within your center, and visualizing the anchor shrinking while a sovereignty membrane seals the breach. Repeat until the anchor diminishes. Small daily closures are more effective than grand, sporadic attempts. You are not alone in this architecture of influence. Each painful imprint has likely been used as a conduit to draw away your vital breath. Recognize collective patterns so you can choose differently in gatherings and intimate dynamics. Strengthen a personal frequency shield before entering charged spaces and test proximity to people who trigger old scripts. Set clear sovereignty markers in your interactions. Withdraw attention, close channels, and insist that your vessel remain uncompromised. Over time, those changes cut the flow and reduce the likelihood of repeated returns. Begin now with one specific anchor and commit to the small sequence. Name the wound, hold your vital breath in steady attention, raise a frequency shield, and redirect the released charge into constructive purpose for your vessel. Keep records of change so the pattern becomes undeniable. Seek allies who respect sovereignty and can mirror your progress without opening new breaches. Persistence will unravel the matrix corridor. As anchors unbind, The cycle of reincarnation and needless suffering loosens, and the reclaimed energy becomes fuel for true, self-directed life. You have been carrying a repeating pattern that shows up as restlessness, defensive urges, and that constant hunt for a frequency shield against imagined threats. Naming this pattern is not an indulgence. It is a precise action that changes the relationship you have with it. When you call the pattern by name, you stop feeding parasitic pressure with ignorance. This naming turns what felt like a shapeless force into a vessel you can inspect. The act of recognition is the first key to shifting your stance. Recognition does not dignify the pattern, it clarifies its shape so you can respond rather than react. The pneuma, translated simply as vital breath, wakes when awareness names the pattern. That vital breath is not mystical fluff. It is the organizing current that steadies the vessel and aligns intent. As pneuma engages, the parasitic pressure loses its covert status because you supply a clear perimeter. The perimeter becomes a monadic anchor, a point of reference that prevents slipping back into habitual inaction. Begin by tracing where the interference shows up, in your posture, in the stories told to defend the vessel, in sudden freezes or escapes. Pinpoint the trigger and give it a concise name, not a sentence, a label that captures the movement, like withdrawal loop or protective circuit. Naming is tactical. It creates a reference point that your pneuma can use to reorient the monadic anchor. Once the label exists, the pattern's influence recedes because it no longer operates under anonymity and camouflage. Confrontation here is precise and calm, not combative. With the pattern named, place a clear boundary around it, a frequency shield that blocks parasitic pressure and preserves sovereignty. Visualize or sense the border as a functional limit, what the pattern may touch and what remains off-limits. The vessel will respond to that containment. Energy previously drained by interference becomes available for deliberate action. This boundary training is how sovereignty is reclaimed incrementally, and it prevents the pattern from abusing the vessel's habitual openings. When recognition lands consistently, a fissure appears in the matrix you are moving within. The matrix is the loop of repeated choices that granted the pattern its authority. The fissure creates a gap where new options can enter. You will feel a relief like reduced parasitic pressure and increased clarity. The vessel can choose differently because the monadic anchor gives a stable reference. Small choices compound. Each time you step through that fissure, the old inertia weakens and the pattern's claim to automatic control fractures further. Practice simple rituals to make this practical. Start by pausing when you sense parasitic pressure, uttering the label out loud or mentally, and drawing a breath of pneuma, that steadying vital breath, into the monadic anchor. Reinforce the frequency shield by stating what you will not grant to the pattern. Track one small behavior to change, then repeat actions that honor the new perimeter. Over days, the vessel adapts. These repeated, measured moves train pneuma to hold the fissure open and diminish the pattern's recurring claim. This is the profound but practical secret. Recognition unlocks the pathway, and pneuma does the steadying work so sovereignty can return. It is not an overnight eradication. It is an operational change that requires attention and repetition. Keep naming, keep calibrating the frequency shield, and keep tending the monadic anchor until new habits are the default for the vessel. Each named pattern becomes a map rather than a trap. Your work is to persist with clarity. The fissures widen with consistent, grounded action and safe, deliberate choice. You carry a pattern that the matrix reads, like a constant signal. You know the pull, the parasitic pressure that tightens when you step outside known bounds, the interference that tells you to seek a frequency shield. The secret to breaking that pull is simple and practical. Perform an action that contradicts your own pattern. It does not require grand spectacle. It must be clear, decisive, and different enough that the matrix registers an error. That error is the opening through which sovereignty begins to return. When you introduce that error, the matrix struggles to predict your next vector. Your vessel is designed to send repeatable signals, and predictability feeds the system's grip. A single anomalous movement disturbs the pattern. The vital breath you use to steady afterward reinforces your monadic anchor. Think of the error as a deliberate interference, a small crack in automated expectation. With each crack, the system must recalibrate, wasting energy on false assumptions. That wasted energy loosens parasitic pressure and creates space for real choice. Start with acts that are simple, but visibly contrary to your usual script. Take a different route on a regular commute. Speak an honest boundary where silence was customary. Change the hour you allow for work or rest. Each choice signals a break from predictability and trains the matrix to expect variability. When public eyes or familiar hands test those changes, stand firm behind your sovereignty and adjust your frequency shield. These moves teach the environment that you will no longer be reduced to a loop. Plan actions that are measurable and unpredictable, then scale them slowly so the vessel can integrate each shift. Begin with one deliberate deviation per day. Observe the friction it creates and allow the vital breath to reset the internal rhythm. The monadic anchor is the reference point that refuses to betray core alignment while experiments change surface behavior. Over weeks, increase the variety and timing of deviations, so unpredictability becomes an asset. This strategic randomness reprograms expectation without provoking reckless exposure or needless harm. When patterns break, parasitic pressure often intensifies, and interference shows up as a tightened impulse to retreat to safety. This is the matrix pushing back, using old cues to restore predictability. Meet that resistance with disciplined use of the vital breath and a clear recall to the monadic anchor. Name the sensation as interference and watch it pass like a transient current. Each time the impulse is noticed and not obeyed, sovereignty strengthens and the field around the vessel thickens, making future deviations easier and safer. Expect ripple effects in relationships and environments that once relied on your predictability. Some will attempt to restore old rhythms through pressure or confusion. Others will adapt and mirror your new variability. Hold a steady frequency shield to protect the space where decisions are intact, while communicating boundaries without excess explanation. Responsibility is part of liberation. Unpredictability without regard for others harms the vessel as much as the system. Calibrate unpredictability with ethics and practicality so sovereignty grows without unnecessary collateral disturbance. Begin now with one small, unmistakable deviation, and watch how the matrix reallocates attention to correct. Each successful deviation is a ledger entry toward greater sovereignty, each failure a lesson about timing and boundary. The secret revealed here is practical. Unpredictability, practiced with a monadic anchor and sustained by the vital breath, undermines control by demanding recalculation. Persist with care, protect with a frequency shield, and accept that liberation occurs in increments. Over time, the accumulated errors remodel the field and restore a durable, lived sovereignty. Your life carries an unseen weight, parasitic pressure that tightens around decisions, interference that mutes intuition, and a constant search for protection. You have a practical resource in the act of declaration, a vocal alignment that reconfigures inner frequency. By pronouncing clear present phrases, you invite pneuma into your vessel, raising the monadic anchor and establishing sovereignty within. This is not an abstract claim. It is a procedural recalibration that shifts where outside forces can place influence on attention and action. Pneuma is the vital breath that organizes inner cohesion, the frequency that clears interference and sustains your monadic anchor. Archons are external operators of control, entities or pattern systems that exploit resonance to bind a vessel to outcomes outside true intention. The matrix is the network of repeated signals and agreements that keep those bindings stable. Recognizing these elements gives practical leverage. When vocal declaration shifts frequency toward pneuma, small resonances break, parasitic pressure loses purchase, and your operational field regains clarity and direction. Preparation matters. Adjust posture so the chest and throat offer an unobstructed channel. Settle into the vessel with attention on the vital breath. Make the monadic anchor the origin point for sound. Feel it as a stable center rather than an image. Set intention concisely. Declarations work best when economy of phrase meets animated will. Practice softening internal resistance before voice activation. A tense throat scatters frequency. This is a pragmatic stage, where physical coordination and focused resolve prime the whole apparatus for effective declaration. When voicing declarations, choose present tense, first-person phrasing, and deliver with steady resonance. Begin with open vowels to anchor pneuma, then close carefully to sever habitual loops. A firm consonant ending acts like a frequency shield against parasitic pressure. Keep volume controlled, enough to fully populate the chest and head cavities without strain. Rhythm matters. A sustained note, followed by a concise seal, breaks patterned interference more effectively than hurried speech. Repeat with deliberate spacing until the vessel senses a shift in pitch and authority. The declaration is an act of will, not a wish. It reallocates where intervention can land. When will aligns with pneuma through voice, the monadic anchor thickens and external operators find fewer resonant footholds. Expect tangible signs. Parasitic pressure eases, repetitive intrusions falter, and choices feel less commandeered. Maintain the frequency shield through repetition and simpler vocabulary. Overcomplication scatters potency. Each vocalization is a precise adjustment to the circuit of influence, gradually reducing the capacity of archons and patterned networks to reroute attention or outcomes. Protection appears through steady practice. Short micro-declarations woven into daily movements maintain sovereignty when interruptions arise. Use a single-sentence anchor that returns attention to the vital breath and resets the frequency shield. Say a compact present tense line and release. If parasitic pressure returns mid-task, pause for one measured breath and voice the anchor once more. The vessel recalibrates quickly when the pattern is consistent. Over time, these micro-acts compound, creating a baseline field where interference loses speed and habitual control loosens its grip. Persistence carries the effect from momentary relief into lasting reconfiguration. Avoid mistaking procedural shifts for grandiosity. Sovereignty requires humility in operation and clear boundaries against egoic imitation. As the monadic anchor strengthens, visible life rearranges. Fewer imposed outcomes, decisions arising from authentic resonance, and a clearer path toward manifest true nature. Cutting ties to the matrix is a stepwise engineering task. Each declaration severs a conductive strand. Continue with disciplined voice work and attention to vital breath, and reality will begin to align with sovereign intent. You have felt the chains of the matrix pressing at your edges, a parasitic pressure that narrows perception and drains vital breath. This secret begins with recognition. Name the interference that repeats in relationships, work, and your private hours. When you learn to see these patterns as external operations rather than personal failures, your vessel shifts. The guide's method is simple and practical. Reinforce your monadic anchor and deploy a frequency shield. Practices that change how signals meet your attention and energy. Once the monadic anchor is steady, explosive synchronicities begin to arrive like precise pulses rather than random coincidences. You will notice repeated numbers, unexpected contacts, doors opening that map to your intentions. Treat these events as confirmation, not vanity. They indicate resonance between your vessel and a wider field. Practical response is required. Respond quickly, conserve vital breath, and match the amplitude of your frequency shield so opportunities align without collapsing under interference or former patterns that still seek to pull your sovereignty away. You will see social dynamics alter, as your clarity increases, and parasitic pressure can no longer bend your decisions. People who depended on old levers, guilt, fear, obligation, will test you. Observe without reacting. Set practical limits by calibrating presence. Reduce availability where interference is dense. Speak with intention so words carry monadic weight, and maintain your frequency shield consistently. The consequence is immediate. Relationships either attune and deepen, bringing shared resonance, or they fall away, freeing vital breath and conserving your vessel's energy for aligned work. The sensation of lightness and clarity will be unmistakable, as parasitic pressure loosens its grip and vital breath returns to steady rhythm. Decisions become fast and precise. Confusion thins. Make this measurable. Note tasks you complete with speed, the calm in your voice, the reduced drain after interactions. Maintain that gain by daily anchor maintenance, short practices that realign your vessel and refresh the frequency shield, and by minimizing exposure to old patterns that siphon life. This is how the return of your energy becomes a consistent reality. This liberation is not a brief reprieve. Permanence is achieved through integration, not escape. You secure permanence by making monadic anchor routines non-negotiable, and by training the frequency shield to filter subtle interference before it lodges. Track small wins and institutionalize new habits in your vessel, so old leverage points lose purchase. Connect with people who mirror your sovereignty and exchange practical signals. Shared resonance accelerates stability. Over time, what once felt miraculous settles into ordinary living, and your daily choices reinforce the new, permanent state. When fear or the need for protection arises, treat it as a signal, not a sentence. Map where parasitic pressure is strongest, and withdraw vital breath from those triggers to weaken their hold. Use brief anchorings throughout the day, 3 to 7 monadic breaths, and adjust frequency shield amplitude in social exchanges. Test boundaries by saying small, firm no's and observing the reaction. That is data. Respond to synchronicities with measured steps, not desperation, so momentum builds from practical alignment instead of fluctuating reassurance. You are wired to live this new truth. Capacity is not earned. It is remembered through practice and steady attention. Keep a simple regimen: morning anchor, midday shield check, evening release, and inventory of synchronicities. Recalibrate when interference spikes, and withdraw from relationships that consistently drain the vessel. Build alliances that honor sovereignty and exchange precise signals. Over months, those small acts compound into irreversible identity changes. Continue with discipline and curiosity. Permanence demands both care and uncompromising boundaries until the new reality is simply where you reside. You have just unlocked the 3 vital tools necessary to assert your sovereignty against the Archons matrix. Remember, these revelations are not just knowledge. They empower you to reclaim your energy and dismantle the interference that has sought to control you. The tools are in your hands. The interference no longer has a legal claim to your energy. Embrace your newfound power, and remember, subscribing to the Unwritten Word ensures you continue to receive these suppressed records. Here we do not interpret the Word. Here we expose what was hidden. This is the Unwritten Word. Your journey does not end here. It continues immediately. A related record is available now for continued observation. Proceed.